everyone, Korovth here, and well, I may have altered the course of everything in a pretty bad way. Totally by accident, mind you. I didn't know what was going on while it was happening until it was already too late. It had already happened. But I certainly have a sense of the damage I have done. Why does stuff always have to get so complicated? Okay. Shut your eyes and feel the crisp burst of energy flowing through your circuits. This is birds talking to fish. How long are we going to be stuck in this end of the tunnel? Another bot got a little antsy as the teams from both factions dug toward the collapse from either end. Who would find us first? And would it matter? The question's on everyone's minds. So, you're saying this is a baby tree, Korovth? Whatever. Is that what it is? A heavily armored, turtle-like bot asked, holding aloft one of the little purple-gray flowers. Weeds, really. And he was trying to pass the time till their imminent demise. Never mind. Do you think we made it past the border? If we're in 117, we'll be cycled into it even if we do die. It'll be great. I don't think it works like that. Korovth plucked the weeping, somber flower in its plastic bag container from the Defender bot's possession. This is the first one I've ever seen in all my time within Foundry, though. Quite curious. There were a bunch of them. I just took one that it didn't seem like it would hurt, so I just took one. The heavy defender replied, leaning against the backs of several other bots in the small space. Wait, do you mean at all, or something else? Another bot asked of Korovth. This right here is where I kinda messed it all up. All of it. Ruined by me, Korovth. I've seen them a bunch of times when doing research with Lothran. Did you see me fuck it all up? I did. I screwed everything up right there. I'm such a bucket of failure sometimes. Ugh. Several bots, even as the sounds of digging continued to get slightly louder with each new scrape of a shovel or swing of a pick, perked up toward Korovth. One of them even asked the right question in just an offhanded way that I didn't really notice. Lothran? Who's that? He's my father. I can never take that moment back. I could want for all the universe to go back and change it for all the good it would do. The bot asked me a question, and like a big old dummy, I answered it. All of the present bots perked up, turning toward me. Your father? One of them said in such a way like they were saying a word they could not even begin to fathom. What's a father? Another bot asked, sounding equally as if he'd never even heard of the concept before, or even how to craft it into something real in his mind. This was when I began to realize I had screwed up somehow. I just wasn't aware of how bad. I thought it was something I could fix at the time, so I couldn't really distract them or change the subject properly like I'd done before with previous topics like this within Foundry. He takes care of me. He teaches me stuff, and he protects me and answers my questions, and he makes me think of ways to answer my questions when he's not around so that I can do the stuff that he does for me, on my own. Many of the bots stood and stared, looking at each other, like something they didn't know about had been taken from them, and they were only just now finding out about it. There was a loss to each and every one of them, but they couldn't even voice it. They didn't know what it was. That sounds awesome, one of the bots spoke up, and the rest nodded in unison with him. That's like the way you act with us a lot, too, another bot began, pointing to Korovth. They all fell silent until another of them picked up that line of thought. Are you our father? And they all sort of raised their hands slowly and pointed at Korovth, enough that it made me, exceptionally uneasy with the combined gestures, silent and staring. No, you could say him that, and you might note the worry in my voice. This is when I began to see how tilted things had suddenly become, how very painfully twisted and out of my control. It's not like that here. When I'm there and when I'm here, things are different, as they can be. Did you catch it? This is the point of no return. Who would really think saying something so minor sounding, not even really saying it at all, would cause so much chaos in the long run, but they'd never heard anything like here and there as very separate places from Foundry. It was, after all they could ever know until this moment. What? Many of the other bots looked confused. One of them spoke up, though, uttering the most dangerous series of words that anyone had ever spoken in all of Foundry. So, you're saying Foundry isn't the only place there is, that we're stuck here, and there's another place that isn't like this? It was more of a question than a statement, but now that it had been planted in so many minds, there was no way to root this weed out from all of them, no matter how hard I tried. I stumbled over my own thoughts, getting a sinking feeling in my head. This was going very poorly. Many of the other bots began to stand back up and brush themselves off. Tell us about it, Korovth, one of them asked of him. I don't get to go outside much there. People wouldn't respond well to me, but, I'm stuck inside a lot. I only read about it and watch movies and videos, and, I realized the more I tried to describe this other life, the more concepts and ideas these bots had never encountered. And then I'd have to expose them to those ideas in some way that they knew or understood or could comprehend. It was very confusing. What's, a movie? Is that what you said? One of them was brave enough to ask. The others just stood there and stared at him. At me. It's very strange thinking about all this now. It's, I struggled to find some comparison. It's like those advertisements you see, but instead of the pictures being solid, they move, and it's a story like a book. What's a book? Books are like the pamphlets sometimes you dig up, with the words and the pictures. Only most of them, there's just words and, this is tough. The words describe a greater whole that it's like one big thing. It starts at a place and it ends at another place, and it feels usually satisfying where it ends up, connected to how it started. You'd have to read a book to know what it is, and a movie's kind of like that, but quicker. I trailed off as the bot stumbled backward. Everyone else transfixed upon him. He fell onto his rump and then leaned against the wall, one hand reaching for something, as this bot's mind was blown to bits, shattered by its sudden realization of how little it knew about the shape of reality around it. What about this thing? This tiny little tree? The Defender bot picked up the flower from my possession, holding it up for everyone to focus on. What about it? I was perfectly aware of the damage I had done at this point, but there wasn't really anything I could do to stop it, so of course I made it worse. Are there more of them? The defender bot pushed the flower right at Korovth's photo sensors. Are there more of these in that other place you go to? There's grass, like thin strands of green stuff that's kind of like paper or like little bits of plastic, but it grows on its own, and it's everywhere, I think, yeah, pretty much everywhere. And then there's trees, they're like gray, fibrous plants as tall or even much taller than a scrap heap. And there's animals, like bots, but made out of flesh and blood and bone, and they eat food, plants and other animals instead of batteries. This is getting weird. I don't like doing this. And then there's people and technology and almost no war like there is here, and most everybody follows the rules because it's easier, and then they only live one life as far as anyone can tell. I would rather do anything else right now. Almost everyone has their own house, and that's like a base, but it's much nicer. And they get new things to put in their house, and things produced specifically to be used for that one purpose instead of adapted from a different one. Like all the junk that's everywhere around here. Oh man, I wish everybody would stop looking at me. This is crazy bad. And there's all kinds of stuff. And the ocean. Oh, I cried the first time I saw the ocean. I remember that one like it was yesterday. It's water, but not like dirty or polluted, most of it anyway. And it just stretches forever. And ever. I could see the sun behind it, and the sun looked small behind the ocean. It just kept going. You couldn't see the end of it. It was like the scrap heaps, but beautiful and flowing and moving, and it sort of like merged with the sky. I can't explain it. I want to be quiet right now. I went to speak again, but that was when I noticed them. Really observed the alteration in their minds. All of the bots were in that stunned state, picturing things they'd never imagined before, trying to understand things they weren't even programmed to. I could see the process breaking most of them. A bunch of them just powered off or ripped their own batteries from their chest. Others stood back up, gripping their pistols, shaking with rage, loading bullets into their guns, their eyes hardening as they looked up to me. I was so very afraid when the first of them knelt. What would you call us, Korovth? All of the other fighters coalesced without a single communication into a tight, triangular formation. We who are strong enough to pass on your message. Oh boy, well, Lothran and I, sometimes he calls me his little rook, but that's private, that's between us. It means tower in a way. All I want to do these days is find out what's in the towers. And I was rambling, of course. As much as they had gone through a transformation, I was experiencing one as well, and it was fucking terrifying. And then he stood back up. We will call ourselves Rooks then. We will take names like Lothran, the father, and Korovth, our father. I was aware of the implications, sort of. I knew what he was saying was dangerous. Really, really pants-shittingly dangerous. But I was never given the opportunity to counter this statement, because that was the exact moment that the tunnelers on one of the sides, doesn't really matter who now though, does it? They had no idea what they were getting themselves into. They broke into the cave. And then the fighting began. A regular extra would not do for this. Not the way this part of it all tears me up no matter how many times I think about it or write it down or talk about it. Lothran says not to worry, but it's so messed up now. You have no idea. Like, we'll get to it, and it's terrible, but Foundry is completely different now. It's totally, like, everything I thought I'd ever done to change it is not even close to this. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. I'll see you again next Sunday. Stay safe out there. Don't do stuff like this. It's really not good.